Hey guys, Dishsoap here with the 13.13 post B patch legend slash comp tier list. Currently rank 1 right now. I actually recorded a video earlier going over the legends in the comps when the patch first came out, but it was such a degen meta. Draven was basically running over everyone, and there was like 8 Draven players per lobby, so it wasn't really that much of a tier list besides just pick Draven. So re-recording it after the B patch. Basically, they just nerfed all of the 3-2 and 4-2 augments for legends that give you econ. So stuff like balance budget gets nerfed, knowledge download, money, rolling for days. And they also nerfed spoils of war, which is Draven's 2-1 augment. So essentially, they just made Draven back to what he was originally, which wasn't the greatest. And they also ended up nerfing stuff like Caitlyn, Tahm Kench, Aesol, other econ legends, just because they didn't want, like, after Draven nerf, they didn't want like the other econ legends to take over the meta. So with all that, let's jump to the tier list. As a sole S tier, we have Ezreal. I'll go over why after, but sole S tier is Ezreal. In A tier, we have Vlad and Master Yi. In B tier, we have Veigar, Urf, Aesol, Ornn, Poro, and Lee Sin. And in C tier, we have Twisted Fate, Bard, Pingu, Tahm Kench, Draven, and Caitlyn. Now, as to why Ezreal is S tier, just have to look at his legend, or just have to look at his augments that they changed. So the biggest change with Ezreal is that they buffed Buried Treasures, which is 2-1 augment. Now it gives you a component immediately instead of after one round, and you get a gold for every component total you farm. That's a really big deal. It means you can slam an extra item on 2-1, and like the extra, like 3 gold doesn't sound like a lot, but in the early game that makes such a difference for like making econ intervals and being able to hold units and stuff. So, and his 3-2 augment, I don't think it got changed. I think they might have like slightly nerfed Giant Grab Bag, but these are like solid. They're not the best choices, but like if you really need a Reforger or Mover or a lesser dupe, I would definitely consider them. And the gold it gives you like is not bad. Very similar to the Ornn ones, just more random, but they give you more utility. And then his 4-2 augments aren't the greatest. Well-earned Comforts 1 and 2 are essentially just worse than the Cybernetic augments. And the Cybernetic augments aren't that great, so not really that interested in taking these two, but the Prismatic one's okay. If you're playing a comp that cares about attack speed, getting a 24% increase attack speed on your carry is pretty good, and the health is not bad. So I would only really consider the Prismatic one, but the other ones are good. The main reason though Ezreal's strong is his 2-1 augment though. That's like the biggest deal. Vlad didn't get any changes. I think he's just staying where he was from last patch. They nerfed Battle Ready, which is whatever. The main reason Vlad is like higher up on average is that just other legends got nerfed. Transfusion's a very solid 2-1 augment. Like you guarantee like an above average combat augment, and Ascension's actually pretty good in this meta. We'll go over it later, but Azir is one of the best comps, and Azir really likes Transfusion and Ascension. Definitely a good choice if you want to play Azir. The next in A tier is going to be Master Yi. He's very similar to Vlad. He just has pumping up instead of Transfusion. I think I would prefer Vlad in this meta just because I think the comps, like the meta comps, usually want Transfusion more than pumping up. Pumping up was really good on like Gunners and Deadeye. Pumping up's good on, but a lot of those comps got hit pretty hard by recent nerfs, so I think Vlad is better. But I mean, pumping up, like these augments are still decent. That already got nerfed. But the reason why Yi doesn't like go down despite the nerfs is that they actually bug fixed Gotta Go Fast 2 and Gotta Go Fast 3. If you didn't know, I didn't know this. Apparently Gotta Go Fast 2 and Gotta Go Fast 3 were giving the exact same effect as Gotta Go Fast 1, so they weren't actually generating 25 and 40 and 35 and 50, they were doing 10 and 20. So this might actually be an option for like AP comps or like reroll comps, reroll melee comps that want the movement speed. I've been told like it could be good on like Kled. Makes them move really fast. Be something to consider. For B tier, we have a lot of champions. Veigar should be higher. Like he should probably be either an A or an S. But unfortunately, they buffed, okay, so they buffed Jewel Lotus 1 and Jewel Lotus 2 this patch. But unfortunately, they didn't add the updated and buffed versions to the Veigar. So if you take Veigar, you're gonna get the old and nerfed Jewel Lotus 1 and 2, which is a big downside. But the reason why he's still B tier is, I mean, Jewel Lotus 3 is good, for sure. But the reason why he's still B tier is they did buff Tiny Power, and this is the updated version. Tiny Power is now just a very comparable combat augment. I would say it's very comparable to like, what's it called, social distancing because of the attack speed. I would say it's like slightly worse on average, but guaranteeing like a slightly worse social distancing is not bad. And like I said earlier, Ascension is really good in the meta. I'd say if Veigar, like Jewel Lotus 1 and Jewel Lotus 2, if they were the correct version, he would probably be at least A tier and maybe S tier. I could definitely see it. I guess I just wait for next patch before this stuff gets buffed for real this time. And then we have Urf. I still wouldn't really recommend Urf to like beginners or honestly anyone below master rank for that purpose. I think he's really hard to play. I think Tome is one of like the more skill testing things in the game. You have to know how to tailor it. You have to like know what's good. You have to make sure you pick the right one. It's just a lot of work. I prefer just taking the combat ones, but there are some really powerful emblems this set. Some notable ones, they just buffed their Slayer. Noxus has been really good. They just buffed Strategist. Strategist emblem is now premium. Shadow Owls is a lot better after they buff Gwen. And then the other stuff that's just always generically good is like Challenger, Ionia, Sork. They also buff Shurima, they buff Shurima, so Shurima's good as well. So lots of good emblems this patch. Don't think it's a bad choice. I would just be cautious if you were new to the game, because he's pretty hard to use. For 3-2, he's the same augment as Ezreal. Decent. You'll take it sometimes. A lot of times you won't. Good option to have though. And final grab bag, same thing, just situationally good. The notable one is the prismatic one that gives you a champion duplicator. Could definitely be like very, very, very good if you have like somehow have like a legendary pair. You can get a 2-star legendary and 4-2 and a spat. So prismatic earth grab bag can definitely be a big high roll, but C tier for me just because I think he's hard to play. We have Asol. After the nerfs to a lot of the top legends, Patient Study and Cutting Corners and Level Up, I guess, have become a little bit more attractive. I kind of forget if these are worse than like the original patch values. The graphic here doesn't have the updated version, so this is not what it does. I think they're probably just, like, I think it's back to what they were on the launch, which was not great. But it does let you push level 8 earlier than everyone in the lobby. The player damage went down, lets you greed a little bit. So definitely not horrible. Just, I do think there are better options this patch. Then we have Ornn. His Latent Forge comes out 1 turn later, which is really big nerf, honestly. I played Ornn for almost all of last patch. Whenever it was silver, I basically almost always took Latent Forge. Like a 1-turn delay is massive. They also nerfed Small Forge and Medium Forge, both give 2 less gold, which doesn't sound like a lot, but like that stuff adds up. And those are the only like augment changes, but they also changed the Ornn items. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. They nerfed Eternal Winter the slow, but it gives more health now. It's still the best one, apparently, according to the stats. They buff stuff like Infinity Force, Deathfire, Anima Visage. They're all pretty equal now, honestly. Should probably just take the one that's best for your spot. They also nerf Sniper's Focus a decent bit, but yeah, just take whatever is best for your spot. If you have tank items, consider getting a tank item for like multiplying your tank stats. If you have a damage item and like a 2-star Jhin, consider taking a damage item, something like that. I still think he's pretty solid. I have him in B tier, but I do think he's kind of a worse version of Ezreal at this point. Ezreal just gives you more value, I think, and more gold after the Ornn item nerfs, so I would prefer Ezreal. Next we have Poro. So the thing about Poro, I had him in the top tier in my last video, but the thing about Poro is in the recent patch, they nerfed a lot of the generic combat augments. And the reason why Poro was actually like acceptable was that on average, you saw a lot of like the good generic augments more because you saw less legend augments. But as they buff stuff like Ezreal and they nerf generic combat augments, Poro is going to go down a tier. It is what it is. I think Poro is still perfectly fine to play. I just don't think he's optimal at all. Then we have Lee Sin. Honestly, not a fan of this guy. I would basically never play him, but he is the BIS legend for Tristana Reroll. They changed Lee Sin auto roll to now only be able to be used twice per turn instead of infinite. Big nerf. Trade Sector got buffed though, giving you 2 gold, always solid. Then Shopping Spree, apparently, I've never taken this, but apparently it's mid. Trading Reward, and they actually nerfed Money, his 4-2. But I don't think you were taking this on Lee Sin anyways. You probably just want combat to help your reroll comp. But if you want to hard force a 1-cost reroll like Tristana, he's gonna still be your best option. So I have him in B tier just for that, but personally I just wouldn't play him. I don't think he's very good for flex. And then starting in C tier, we have Twisted Fate. This is mostly from like a high elo perspective. I'm pretty sure Lee Sin will probably still dominate low elo, but even before the nerfs, because they did nerf Pandora's items too, now gives you 1 full completed item instead of 2 components, which is a big nerf to the consistency. At high elo, even before this nerf, people were pivoting off of TF just because like forcing BIS wasn't as good as just getting more tempo out of stuff like Ornn. And it's really only good for reroll comps. It's not very good for flex play. So high elo was already kind of off the Pandora's wave, while low elo was still calling for nerfs. Apparently they're going to nerf it even further. It might just be it is what it is, because it probably will still terrorize low elo, but from a high elo perspective, I think it's C tier. I don't really think there's anything you really want to be forcing BIS for. They nerfed Garen. His 3-2 augment is pretty bad, like very bad actually. And his 4-2 augment, it used to give Zeke, so now it gives you completed item made from the 2 component, for the same component I mean. So that's going to be stuff like Deathblade, Blue Buff, Rapidons, so just not very good items. Zeke's was good, so yeah, not a big fan of TF, but good for low elo to force comps, I guess. Joining him in C tier is going to be Bard. I had Bard as the lowest tier legend last patch. They did make him a little bit better. They buffed the gold augment Personally, I think this is just worse than Ezreal. You do, like, you get more components than his gold, and you do get to choose the components, so eventually it's higher value. But the Ezreal tempo is just way too much. Bard's Silver Augment is pretty bad, and his Prismatic one, I think they somehow managed to make it worse. Yeah, it's so slow, especially at high elo. I would not recommend Bard. Small Forge, Medium Forge got nerfed still. Now he has Seeing Double instead of Zeke's, I think. So honestly, maybe Bard should be in bottom tier, but I think Caretaker's Favor is like good enough to make him C tier, I guess, the gold augment, but I would still just play Ezreal over him. Pingu, not much for me to say. The Prismatic one is actually good, but Metabolic and Tiny Titans are just not the best 2-1 augments. Pingu actually got a little bit worse because like the Piltover comp got pretty hard nerfed because they nerfed Zeri and Gunner and all that stuff. His 3-2 augment's bad, his 4-2 augment's like okay sometimes, just like Earth. Yeah, Pingu's at C. Only really one I want is Tiny's Titans, and that's not a good enough reason to take a legend. Then we have Kench. They did buff Hedge Fund, it's still mid. AFK Rich Get Richer have been below average whole set, and they just nerfed Balance Budget and Money. So definitely just gonna be C tier for Kench. He was like the worst econ legend and he still got nerfed, so yeah, would not pick Kench. And then we have, I think, Draven and Caitlyn. They were some of the best ones earlier. But Draven, like I said at the start of the video, he was dominating the meta. He got pretty fat nerf. They nerfed Spoils, like they nerfed all of his augments. They nerfed Rolling for Days very hard as well. Maybe maybe I shouldn't be that harsh on him. Like maybe Spoils of War is still decent enough to like be like low B tier, but I just don't see it. I would rather just pick Ezreal at this point. But yeah, Draven goes C after the nerfs. And Caitlyn got kind of caught in the crossfire. Her 2-1 augments are pretty bad. They buff Stars Are Born to give 3 gold, but at the same time they nerf Starter Kit. So yeah, Caitlyn 2-1 augments not the best, and she got kind of caught in the crossfire of other econ legends being good. So Knowledge Download and Rolling for Days got nerfed. Hurts her a lot, she's in C tier. Yeah, that's gonna be it for the augment section. All right, now with the comp section of the video, we're gonna be starting off with probably the best and most consistent comp this patch. It's gonna be Strategist Azir Lux duo carry. The reason why this comp is good, mostly just because all the other comps got nerfed. This is a build that popped up like a week or so into the release patch. Basically, people found out that you don't really want to be playing Azir with Vertical Shrima because it's kind of hard to get like a duo carry, since the only other real carry in that comp is like Akshan, which is kind of inconsistent. So people pivoted to a version where you flex Demacia and add Strategist for more damage, and like Lux, and now Lux could be your duo carry. Swain, Nasus, Jarvan's gonna be your frontline. You can itemize either Nasus or Jarvan, just depends. I would probably itemize whatever one you hit first. I do think though, if you put 2 items on Azir and give Nasus 3 items, he's a lot tankier than Jarvan, but that requires you to do a 2-item Azir, which is a little bit sus, honestly. Might not have enough damage. But yeah, tank either Azir or Jarvan or Nasus, or even both if you have enough items. Lux and Azir. This Azir is going to be Shiv Gunblade +1. You don't really need double Gunblade. It is probably this, but it's kind of hard to get, you know? I would put Gunblade on whatever unit you have. You're closer to 2-starring, I guess. But this Azir is going to be Shiv Rageblade Gunblade. This Lux is going to be Gunblade Shojin. The reason why Shojin is best now is because it basically just got buffed. It gives more AP and starting mana than it did. Good item now. Really good item, in fact. That's going to be the comp. Probably want to roll on 7 for like 1 Azir, 1 Lux, 1 Jarvan, 1 Nasus or something, or maybe like a couple 2-stars, like your Swain 2, your Yaren 2, stuff like that. To cap out this board, you can drop the Strategist and just start running 5 costs, like Heimer, Senna, Rise, if they're like Rise 2 if it's upgraded, do Cassante over Talia, you can do Random Scion for more frontline. But that's how you cap out the comp. But Strategists are just a cheap and effective way to stabilize your board. For the Strategist Demacia comp, I would play Ezreal because getting the extra items to get 3-item Jarvan, Lux, Azir, Nasus are very, very good. The extra econ helps as well. So definitely would recommend Ezreal for this. Now the 6 Ionia comp, the gist of it, you just want to play 6 Ionia. It's a very, very strong trait. Like 80% of the games, you're just going to be playing around Yasuo primary carry with an AP backliner and tank items on Shen. You can either itemize Karma, Ahri, or Kaisa. I think Karma 2 is better than Ahri 1 or Kaisa 1. But Kaisa 1 is going to be better than Karma 2. R2 is going to be better than Karma 2, obviously. R2 is going to be better than Kaisa 2. And Karma 3 is probably equivalent to RE2 and better than Kaisa 2. Just keep that in mind. But yeah, AP items on either Karma, Ahri, or Kaisa. Tank items on Shin. Damage items on Yasuo. On level 7, just play 3 Challenger. It's completely fine. Yasuo and Kaisa don't really scale that much off the attack speed, so you're not missing that much. And then before you hit Ahri, just play Jhin. If you get an Ionia spat, the best options are either Callista, and you can even run her as like a 4th carry sometimes with whatever random items you have left over. whatever. Plus is really good. Another really good holder is Bel'Veth. If you found like a random Bel'Veth 1 on 7, it's enough to like give you to fast 8, fast 9, honestly. And Bel'Veth 2 is probably the highest cap in the game for Ionia spot. Similar to Bel'Veth, there's Aatrox. Aatrox, when he transforms, he actually does scale with attack speed, but his attack speed scaling is just worse than Bel'Veth's. So he's just a worse version of Bel'Veth, but can still be solid. And then you have other stuff like Aphelios. Aphelios is okay. I think he's a pretty low cap version of the board. I actually think Bel'Veth 1 is usually stronger than Aphelios 2. And playing Aphelios forces you to keep the Jhin instead of playing stuff like Ahri late. So I'm not really a fan of Aphelios. I actually prefer Kalista to Aphelios. It just fits the comp better. But yeah, still super solid. Lots of potential carries, good frontline, good early game. S tier comp. Legend I would recommend would be Ezreal as well. Getting items for Yasuo, Kaisa, and Shin is really hard if you don't have extra items, and Ezreal gives you the extra items. Now we have Sorcerer. The reason I have a spat here is because if I didn't have the Sorcerer spat, I would just play the Shreema board, the Shreema Strategist variation. But if you have a Sorcerer spat, I would consider this version. The gist of it is that you play around Spark, Swain early game with the strong Void, Cast, and Taric opener. And then late game pivot to like Lux, Sona kind of duo carry with Sorc spot. 6 Sorc is really strong. I really wouldn't recommend 4 Sorc. 6 is a massive spike. If you're like in the spot to play 4 Sorc, I would try my hardest to pivot to Azir if you can. But 6 Sorc is definitely at like the low end of S tier. Items on Lux is going to be the same. Shojin Gunblade. I mean, she can use a lot of stuff. She can use blue buff, GS, JG, Guardbreaker. But after the Shojin buffs, I think Shojin's really good. I really like healing on her. You can give leftover damage items to Sona and Vel'Koz. And a win comp for this comp can actually be going for Sona 3, Vel'Koz 3. And you give extra tank items to Jarvan. A way to cap this board is to drop the Void stuff and just play Ahri and I guess Shen. Ahri 2 could be your win con. Give her stuff like blue buff and I guess probably the crit build, something like this. Ahri 2 can definitely win you the game if you have enough frontline. So super solid option for capping out. For Legends, I would recommend this comp. Ezreal's fine. You can go, if you really want to force Sorcerer, you can go Earth to get the Sorc spot. Maybe Yi for the mana generation augments. I honestly haven't seen it played on Sorcs. Maybe it's good. It would definitely be something I'd be interested in testing, but I mean, I haven't tested it yet, so feel free to try it in your games. Yeah, next comp we're gonna go over is 6 Noxus. I have the Echo here. If you get a Noxus spat, just drop the Cassio and play Echo. But the core of this board, you're just going to be playing all the 6 Noxuses and Warwick on 7. And you're just going to be rolling for 3-star Darius, Katarina, and even Kled and Swain if you have enough of them. If you have Noxus spat, also roll for 3-star Echo. Bis Darius is going to be Titans BT +1. The stats say GS is the best, but you can also do stuff like Last Whisper, IE, Second Titans, Edge of Night, DB, or Guardbreaker as well. Biscat is going to be Spark, Healing, plus damage. I think JG Hodge is going to be the best just because of the internal crit synergy. Yeah, extra damage items goes on Echo if you can. Tank items probably go on Swain, and that's about it. Just roll on 7 for Darius 3, Katarina 3. Pretty simple comp, but Legend I would recommend for this, you can do Earth or guaranteeing Noxus emblems. Maybe Vlad? I'm not sure if Vlad's that good. I would actually consider Poro for this comp because outside of Noxus spats, this comp really just wants combat augments. Like Ezreal can be okay, but honestly, like it's kind of hard to itemize anyone after getting Darius 3, Katarina 3. Like getting items in your Warwick and Kled and Swain is not that valuable. So Ezreal might not be that good for this comp. So I would probably consider like Earth, Poro, something else like that. I mean, you can still just play Ezreal, and if you have a Noxus opener, you can just reroll the Ezreal augments. It's completely fine. Earth is good for another reason. You can also go Rogue spat. Or sorry, you can go Slayer spat, I mean. And do either Slayer Darius and Slayer Katarina. It could be a way to cap your board out on 8 with more Slayers like Aatrox. Next comp we're gonna go talk about is Reksai Kaisa duo carry. I had this comp in S tier on my last video. I thought the comp was actually kind of mid after making it. I thought it kind of fell off. But I do think this comp is still really strong. My mistake in my last video ranking this was that I thought it was supposed to be Lissandra as your secondary carry. And now I figured out, or like it's been figured out, that the best way to do this is with Kaisa and Kalista as your backline. If you get a +1 bruiser or you don't hit Scion on 7, you can still play the Lissandra, just don't really itemize her. Yeah, like if you can fit 6 bruiser, fit it. Bis Reksai is going to be BT Titans +1. The best +1 is probably Second Titans, and then Kaisa Bis is going to be probably Shojin, Gunblade, Archangel. Legend I would recommend for this, probably either Vlad or Ezreal. Extra items is nice. Making Kalista like a 3rd carry option and also getting items on your Sejuani, like tank items, is pretty good. Getting some like MR Shred can be nice as well. Getting some anti-heal. And Vlad, the transfusion HP scales really well with Bruiser because Bruiser multiplies your HP. And Ascension is very solid for stall comps like this. Probably Vlad and Ezreal. And then we have Kled. This is probably, I would put it in A tier after the post patch. When I recorded this originally, I put this in B tier because he couldn't really keep up with all the Draven. But now that Draven isn't like aggressively pushing the lobby, reroll comps become a lot better. I showcased this in like a recent. Essentially, you just want to play this exact board on level 6. This Kled is going to be BT Titan's QSS. Play this exact board, roll for 3-star Kled, Zed, Swain, Teemo, and sometimes Katarina if you're lucky. And just level 7, level 8, you just want to add more Slayers. They nerfed Kled's shield, but they buffed the Slayer trait, so I think it's like a net neutral change for this comp overall. If you can get to like 4 Slayer, 4-star Kled, you can definitely win lobbies. Just need a lot of gold to get there. For legends to choose for this, I actually wouldn't go Ezreal because you don't really need items besides Kled items. I would go either Poro for more combat augments or Earth to get Slayer spat, I guess. You can also do Yi for pumping up. I think the attack speed might be good. Pumping up and gotta go fast. The attack speed and move speed might be pretty solid. Earth, Poro, Yi probably for Kled. Last comp in A tier, it's either A or B tier, is just going to be Shadow Isles, Gwen, Slayer, Flex. The gist of it is that you want to play around Gwen and Kalista duo carry with a solid supporting cast. I think this comp really excels with either a Slayer spat or a Shadow Isle spat. And then you either go Slayer or Shadow Isle spats on Yasuo or Kaisa, it does not really matter. If you have tank items for Shen, I would probably do Yasuo over Kaisa just because the Ionia bonus on Shen gives them more tanky. So if you have items on Shen, could consider Yasuo. But yeah, either Slayer or Shadow Isle spats on one of these units. If you have Shadow Isles, you can drop the Maokai. Or like probably just another Slayer, play 5 Slayer, something like that. This Kalista in this version is just going to be a crit build because we want the fights to be over pretty fast with this Gwen and Slayer. The crit build's good because she scales off of AD and AP since she auto attacks. So yeah, I mean, you don't really need this for her. Stuff like Rageblade, GS Gunblade, still good. You can honestly put whatever you want on her. This Gwen is going to be Spark, AP +1. If you have like, healing is fine on her. She gets healing from the Slayer trait. It's 15% Omnivamp, I think, and she gets a shield from Shadow Isles. So you don't really need a healing item on her, but it's never that bad to have extra healing. So like over Guardbreaker, like a Gunblade or BT would be fine. Titans is fine. And yeah, this comp is really good if you hit Sona, obviously. But definitely something I would consider on level 8 roll down. WinCon is just hitting your legendaries and Kalista 3. It's A tier, S tier if you can hit, and like probably like low B tier if you're just rolling for the Sun 7, honestly. For legends here, probably Earth or Ezreal. Earth for getting the emblems and Ezreal just for more items. So in B tier, we're gonna have Tristana Reroll. This comp got nerfed a lot this patch. They nerfed Gunner, 2, they nerfed Tristana herself, and 3, they nerfed Honor Roll, which was the best augment for this comp. It was the Lee Sin Silver augment. But even after those nerfs, the comp is still playable. Probably still very good at low elo. It's one of the easiest comps to play and force. So if you're hard stuck, anything below Master, honestly, you can probably still just hard force this and climb to whatever rank you want. But from a high elo perspective, probably just B tier. Sona doesn't do that much damage anymore. This Tristana is going to be Gunblade, Last Whisper, and the last item can be very flex. Personally, I would think GS, Guardbreaker will be the best items, but like Ginsu, Hurricane is fine. DB is probably fine, stuff like that. IE is probably fine. Maokai, ideally it's like Warmog, Stoneplate +1. Last one can be like Vow, Redemption, because you probably want to kill a tier in this comp. Titans is actually okay on him because he scales his healing off of his AP. Sunfire is fine. Just tank items on Maokai. Damage items on Tristana. When you push levels, your level 7 is just Echo. Like when you have Viego 3, you can actually like go backline with Echo and you get Zon as well, pretty solid. But then at level 8, once you get 4 Gunner, you want to drop the Echo and play 4 Gunner. Ideally it's Sona. You're not gonna have that much gold since you're a reroll comp, so probably gonna end up playing Jace. And then you want to cap your board around like Senna and Timer. So actually a pretty high cap, you just have to get there. It's hard. But B tier comp, probably S tier and low elo, so would definitely consider it. You can probably play Tristana from like a good opener if you have like Ezreal or basically any of the legends, honestly. But if you want a hard force Tristana, play Lee Sin. Next comp, I'm not sure, I probably put this in B tier. Just gonna be Deadeye Freljord. I have items on Akshan because they buffed Akshan recently. Now his spell works with like stuff like Ginsu and Runons. But if you hit an Aphelios 2 and don't have like 5+ Akshans already, I would just carry Aphelios at that point. I think Akshan can only really scale into late game as a 3-star, but like Akshan 2 is 10 times better than Aphelios 1, and he can basically get you to fast 8, honestly, after the change. So yeah, I think Akshan 3 is actually better than Aphelios 2 if you can get there. The reason why this comp dropped down a tier is because they did a tiny nerf to Aphelios, which doesn't really hurt that much, but they did a big nerf to Urgot. He has a lot more max mana now, so he's a lot less tanky. And he does less damage, obviously. So that really hurt the comp's tankiness. I have tank items on Scion here. I think it's better to itemize Scion 1 than Sejuani 2, but it's hard to hit the Scion, right? So if you're playing the game and you have like, let's say Vi instead of Scion, and you have like a Sedge 2, just put the items on Sedge, it's fine. Shin as a flex slot can be like Tarek, Rise, Heimer, whatever you want. If you get Akshan 3, you can probably win the lobby. Aphelios 2 is probably a top 4. Probably just Ezreal. You can like actually duo carry Urgot and Aphelios and get more tank items. Super solid. I would probably just go Ezreal, yeah. And then probably in C tier is gonna be Zeri. Unfortunately, Zeri got hit with like 5 nerfs. So yeah, I would probably only play it from Piltover, and still then it's kind of sus. They nerfed, 1 they nerfed Gunner, 2 they nerfed Zeke's, 3 they nerfed Zeri herself, 4 they nerfed Urgot, and 5 they nerfed Piltover. So she got hits a lot. So probably only really playable from Piltover opener, and she can maybe top 4 if you like hit her really early. But yeah, kind of sad for Zeri. Went from the best carry in the game to the worst carry in the game. I guess for Zeri, it would probably just be like Ezreal or Yi. In the last comp, it's definitely S tier. The reason I don't have it listed is because it needs a hero augment. So recently they just buffed Warwick's hero augment. I think it's called Ravenous Hunter. They basically just quadrupled the stats it gives you, so obviously it's going to be very good. This is going to be Ginsu QSS BT. Mid game, you just want to play around 4 Challenger, 3 Ionia. You probably don't have a Yasuo early game, so it's going to look something like this. Once you get Warwick 3, I mean, usually when you roll on 6, you actually hits like the 4 class pretty often. So if you get like a Shen or a Yasuo, play them instead of Jhin, obviously. And then once you get Warwick 3, level to 7 for 4 Juggernaut. Play 4 Juggernaut, 4 Challenger on 7. Win con for this comp, probably like Kalista 3, Set 3 as like your duo carries. And maybe getting up to 6 Juggernaut with like a Spat or something and an Aatrox. But really, really good comp. Warwick 2 probably like win streaks you all of stage 3. The augment's pretty broken. Abuse while you can. It's probably getting nerfed. Legends for this, I guess, would be Poro, but if you're playing any legend and you see this augment on 2-1, consider taking it. So to recap, S tier is going to be Strategist Lux Azir duo carry, 6 Ionia Flex, 6 Sorcerer. A tier is going to be Noxus Reroll, 6 Bruiser Reksai, Kled Reroll, and Shadow Wild Gwen Flex. B tier is going to be Tristana. Deadeye. C tier is going to be Zeri, and S tier, but situational, is going to be Warwick Reroll. And that's going to be it for the tier list. See you guys next time.